It's Depeche Mode, the podcast. I'm your host, Jon Justice, and we had some major news break regarding the physical release of the Memento Mori movie M, based on the tour, a live album, and those 4 unreleased tracks. I'm going to bring you all of the details that just came out this morning at the time of this recording on Wednesday morning, and then you will hear the show as it was recorded earlier this week. I simply hadn't released it yet. The core of this week's show was actually speculation of the information I'm going to share with you right now. So I'm going to share with you the exciting news that just broke, released officially by Depeche Mode on their social media platforms. And then, if you want, you can listen to this week's episode where we dive into a couple of different items not related to this release, but speculation on when we would have been getting this release from the show that I had already recorded this week. I hope that makes sense. Either way, here's the great news. Just announced Depeche Mode M 2 Blu-ray, 2 CD set being released. There's multiple versions. There's a vinyl version of the album that'll be released along with the DVD version. I'm focusing on the Blu-ray bundle. Depeche Mode M Blu-ray bundle includes 2 Blu-rays and 2 CDs containing the new feature film Depeche Mode M, as well as the video and audio releases of Memento Mori Mexico City, which chronicle the band's 3 sold-out 2023 concerts at Mexico City's legendary Foro Sol Stadium during the Memento Mori World Tour. Also included in the package is a booklet featuring live photos from the Mexico City shows. Blu-ray Disc 1 contains Depeche Mode M, a journey into the heart of Mexican culture's relationship with death, framed by the iconic performances of Depeche Mode during their Memento Mori tour, conceived and directed by the award-winning Mexican filmmaker Fernando Frias. The film blends concert footage with interpretive interstitials and archival materials. This is all what we've heard before in describing of the movie. Depeche Mode M celebrates the band's global influence while delving into the profound connection between the music, mortality, and Mexican tradition. Blu-ray Disc 2 contains Memento Mori Mexico City, the full-length concert, also directed by Fernando Frias and featuring over 2 hours of iconic live Depeche Mode performances from the 2023 Foro Sol shows, and 2 CDs. One contains the live album, Memento Mori Mexico City, which features the soundtrack from the full concert film, as well as, finally, as I predicted, and as I'd rumored, the 4 previously unreleased studio recordings from the Memento Mori sessions. So the full track list for the Memento Mori Mexico City video, you have the intro, My Cosmos is Mine, Wagging Tongue, Walking in My Shoes, It's No Good, Sister of Night, In Your Room, Everything Counts, Precious, Speak to Me, Home, Soul with Me, yes, Ghosts Again, I Feel You, A Pain That I'm Used to, World in My Eyes, Wrong, Stripped, John the Revelator, Enjoy the Silence, Waiting for the Night, Just Can't Get Enough, Never Let Me Down Again, and Personal Jesus. Plus, the 4 audio-only bonus tracks from the Memento Mori sessions, which includes Survive, a title we had not heard before. I had been told that one of those tracks was Loose Cannon. Life 2.0, which we had heard. Give Yourself to Me, which is also a brand new name that I had not heard before. And In the End. Now, it's also been released officially by Depeche Mode that In the End will be available this Friday, the 24th, digitally released on all streaming platforms. So, again, when you hear this week's podcast, it's all speculation on what I just mentioned. And also, you'll hear that I was predicting that potentially we could get, as others were as well, In the End released digitally ahead of Memento Mori M hitting the big screens next week. I'm actually kind of surprised that Depeche Mode has announced this release, considering that I would think they would want to see an increase in sales of the tickets to go see the film. And this may end up deterring some individuals from actually going and seeing it on the big screen, considering that this is going to be released on December 2nd, if I'm not mistaken. December 5th is when this is going to be released. So we've got a little over a month and a half to wait for the physical release on this. This is exciting to me. I mean, it's an understatement to say that I'm excited about this release. Not only am I excited for the film, which I talk about in the rest of the show, which we'll hear in just a moment, but also the fact that we essentially are getting an EP out of the deal. So we're getting a full Depeche Mode release with both the movie and the entire concert, which we all had been wanting from the get-go because it was such an amazing tour. And on top of that, we get a 4-track EP from the band of the songs that hadn't come out from Memento Mori from those sessions. And if they're as good as In the End in terms of quality, boy, this is a real treat heading into the fall, into the holiday season. So I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this announcement? Are you going to see the film? TalkShowNerd@gmail.com, and I get more into this coming up in the official episode, which will start here in just a moment. So everything you're going to hear was already recorded prior to this announcement, so a lot of speculation based off of the information that we already have, but I hope you still enjoy this week's show. And again, email me, talkshownerd@gmail.com. Now, let's get to this week's official episode before I was aware of this amazing release.
Hello, this is Martin Gore from Depeche Mode.
Hi, this is Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode, and you are listening to
My Nerd World.
And welcome to it, fellow devotees, Depeche Mode, the podcast. Some call me Jon Justice because I go by Jon Justice. Thank you so much for checking out another episode this week. Relatively short one. I know we've had quite a few episodes as of late, but I do have several different news items to talk about this week, but short on listener feedback. Nobody wants to comment on Tron. What is up with you guys? That's quite all right. I've been busy too. I don't take offense. So, but again, thank you so much for checking out this week's episode as we dive into all things Depeche Mode. About a week out from the release of Depeche Mode M, the latest film in Depeche Mode's catalog. Martin Gore attended a Northern California screening in Ojai of M. There were photos that were posted online. Martin looking very healthy, even throwing up a hand signs of making the M. I was kind of surprised by. Still waiting to find out when Dave and Martin and Depeche will receive that star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, though based off of these tracks that have been released, collaborations, a new instrumental track released on a tribute album that Martin Gore put out, I can't help but wonder that we'll hear more from Depeche Mode, and not just from those 4 unreleased tracks that we'll also be talking about this week because the rumors are growing. I don't think Dave and Martin are done. I really, really don't. And again, it's all anecdotal, but watching their embrace of these continued releases, they continue to go and put out music in various ways. And considering the friendship that Dave and Martin solidified in the passing of Fletch, I get this feeling that nagging that Dave has talked about in so many interviews throughout the decades of they always feel like they have something else to prove. And it feels like Memento Mori was, okay, we started this. Fletch would have wanted us to finish it. We've now forged this new relationship together. Let's complete this album that we started. And I just feel like there's one more out there where it's just Dave and Martin without any of the baggage and the loss from before, doing it one more time. That's just my sense. I have absolutely nothing to go off of. It's just my gut feeling. This morning I got up, as I do every morning. Such a ridiculous thing to say, right? You think somebody who was a professional talk show host would know better than that. But no, I have my I have my crutches too. But typically I go and listen to podcasts, a lot of times relating to the news of the day when I'm doing prep for the show. Lately I've been listening to music, though. And I don't know why. I just decided I was going to throw on Memento Mori, and I did. And I'm glad that I did. I've said this many times on so many different episodes, but movie and TV, movie, TV shows, and music, there's just sometimes when you're rewatching or re-listening to something where it just hits differently. I had this happen recently with a rewatch of the original Tron ahead of the release of Tron Ares. And it's a movie that I have memorized, much like I do Star Wars. But there was just something about that night, probably the rum that I was consuming, and Tron, the original Tron, that just struck differently, and it was just an incredible experience. And this morning, listening to Memento Mori, I kind of keyed in on, wow, what a great fall album that is. And still so solid with no burn whatsoever. I actually went and took that version of In the End, although a lot of people online are calling it just The End. And this was one of the unreleased tracks from Memento Mori that will appear in the end credits of the Depeche Mode movie that comes out next week. But I ended up putting it in my Memento Mori playlist of the album. The songs are all in order, but I put In the End, I still call it In the End. I put it between Caroline's Monkey and Before We Drown. Man, did it fit well. I mean, the quality isn't the greatest, right? It's clean, but it really, really contributed to the flow of the album and raised it up a level. First time that I remember it happening that successfully, when taking B-sides from an album and putting them into the actual track list and then listening to the album in its entirety. But just another experience of listening to the last release by Dave and Martin, and again, another enjoyable experience listening to that album. And it speaks to how good that album is. So, all right, I'm done rambling. Let me get to the news of the week. So first off, if you were not aware, and thank you to everybody that sent me these from over the week, both Dave and Martin have been busy creating new music. Dave ended up joining the Chrissie Hynde of the Pretenders, her Chrissie Hynde and Pals Duets Special 2025. Let me say up front, I'm not the biggest fan of projects like this. And I'm a purist when it comes to a lot of things. I like just the original version of a band. I'm not the biggest fan of covers. Not the biggest fan of two artists getting together to do one-offs. It's just nothing that's ever been my thing. I have enjoyed some of them, but it's not something that I gravitate towards. This duet of a song called Dolphins that I was completely unfamiliar with, gave it a listen, and I'll just be upfront, I just didn't care for it. Dave's vocals are great. It reminds me a lot of how he sings on Soul Savers, and there's a very different way in which Dave sings on Soul Savers. I'm also not a fan of Soul Savers either, even though I know many of you who listen to the show are and feel like his work on Soul Savers is underrated. This particular track, though, the song itself just didn't do anything for me. The combination of Chrissie Hynde and Dave together just didn't do anything for me, so probably not a track that I will revisit ever, to be honest with you. Now, Martin Gore ended up contributing an instrumental track called Kino, and this was for a tribute album called Soul of the Machine, a celebration of life and legacy of ARP founder Alan R. Perlman. It is an interesting track. I certainly enjoyed it more than I did anything off of his last solo effort. It's kind of in line with the MG album, which I quite enjoyed, but I do not revisit very often beyond when it pops up on rotation within various playlists. This track did have a bit of a Depeche vibe to it. I will say that much. Like, I could have imagined this track being beefed up just a skosh and ending up as a link track on a Depeche album, if you will. Neither of these really set my world on fire. Of course, just because they are Dave and Martin, I'm going to go and check them out, and I did, and they are what they are, and they're pretty much on par for what Dave and Martin do in their solo endeavors. And for me personally, it speaks to how those two individuals are, in Alan back in the day, and even Fletch back in the day, how all of them were better together. Their strength is the combination of what the two individuals bring. I don't think I've ever mentioned this on the show, but I was actually quite surprised at how well Dave's tracks ended up translating on Depeche Mode albums. I mean, there are several of Dave's songs, Come Back, Broken, Suffer Well. They're fantastic. They're fantastic songs. Martin said in one of the documentaries that, and I think it was for Sounds of the Universe, if I'm not mistaken, but I think he had said that he was of the opinion fans would be hard-pressed to figure out which songs were Dave's and which ones were Martin's. And, for the most part, that's true. Dave's not the greatest songwriter. I like some of his solo work on both Hourglass and Paper Monsters. But again, those aren't albums that I revisit very often. No, the strength is the two of them together and what they're able to go and create, even in the absence of Fletch. And I also think those other sort of ancillary band members, the touring band members, those that work with Dave, Christian Eigner, I think he helps a bit too when it comes to the crafting of Dave's songs in the demo stage. So as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on those tracks. If they do anything for you, I hope they did. It's always great to find Depeche Mode related items from either Martin or Dave that we enjoy. Neither of these particular items, though, really interest me much beyond the curiosity of listening to them one time and saying, hey, I listened to them. All right, let's get to the juicy stuff. So, I've mentioned several times on the show that from what I know, the expectation was those 4 unreleased tracks from Memento Mori would be released in conjunction with the promotion of Depeche Mode M. I'll be honest, I'm a little surprised we haven't received them yet, but the movie does come out next week, so we have, essentially a week from when I'm recording this. I'm actually recording this on Tuesday, even though it won't be released until Thursday. So at the time of recording this, we're about a week away. So if the label / the band were looking to hype up the release of Depeche Mode M, this week would be the week to release those unreleased tracks. Now, I'm not the only one saying this, and I don't know what their source is. I don't know if it's circular reporting. Perhaps there are some listeners to this podcast that are on this particular Depeche Mode site, and they're just reciting what I've said on the show. I have no idea of knowing this. That being said, on an Italian Depeche Mode Italia site, they have been teasing this week on their Facebook page that we'll soon not only hear the end, or in the end, the track that appears in the end credits, but also, say 2 or 3 more surprises. 3 more surprises, songs we've never heard, that would round out the 4 tracks from Memento Mori. If I were a betting man, I would kind of go back on what I was told originally, that these songs would be released to promote the film, considering tickets have been on sale for a while. I would think that the band would want to combine it with a physical release of the movie to help enhance the sales. Now, that being said, I'm not sure that there would be individuals that wouldn't be purchasing the physical release of Depeche Mode M, wherein it would require the additional 4 tracks in some sort of box set to be released, right? That doesn't make a ton of sense. I still think as many people will still go and purchase that. And at the same time, we don't live in a world of physical CDs as much as we did in the past, in which case those 4 tracks are probably going to be released digitally. And so unless they're coming out with some sort of combined audio-video component, I'm kind of 50-50 on what's going to happen here. Obviously, I'm hoping that we get these tracks, sometime this week, and others have noted on the Depeche-Mode home fan forum, got my words jumbled there, that perhaps this Friday, leading into next week's release on the big screen. I mean, the movie is only going to be out on the big screen for some 3 days in theaters, and I would imagine that shortly after that, we would get an announcement of the physical release. And there's no doubt we're going to get a physical release. I don't think that they create a documentary like this, a concert film like this, just to have it put on the big screen. And the director himself has said as much, that there will be the entire show available. And Marta Solongni, we know, did the production work on it. So all that is to say, I'm not the only one reporting this now. My source is pretty solid that it was supposed to be released. Those songs are supposed to be released with the movie to help promote it. So that would certainly speak volumes to Depeche Mode Italia if they have their own independent source that is saying the same thing. And considering that we are a week out from the release of the movie, it's not surprising to me because this information would be getting out at this moment in time. Because if this is going to be released on, whatever streaming platform you use, now is the time about a week out when the various different items relating to what is necessary to put that out there would have to be, the wheels would have to be in musical motion, if you will. So my curiosity is piqued because In the End is a song that I listen to every single day. I think it's a fantastic track. And probably my favorite next to, I'll put it up there with Ghosts Again and Don't Say You Love Me of the Memento Mori sessions as some of my favorite songs. So it has me very curious what Loose Cannon sounds like. It's one of the names of the tracks in the other two songs. Oh, Life 2.0. It's always the third one that I forget. Or the fourth one that I forget. So Life 2.0, Loose Cannon, In the End, and there's one more track that there was a name floating around out there, but I don't think it's ever been solidified. So, all of this is to ramble and say that the next 7 days, in terms of being a Depeche Mode fan, are going to be really exciting. There's a special Southern California screening for those that missed it. If you haven't seen it, head on over to the official Instagram account, and I believe at the Grove in Orange. So Rob Rom of the Global Depeche fan group certainly will be attending that. I have no doubt whatsoever. But they did put up a post and asked fans to reserve tickets. It's essentially sort of the LA screening at the Grove over in Orange in Orange County. So wish I was there to go and see it, and still don't know if I'm going to be seeing it next week. I have my ticket. I have my tickets. I'm going to have to make a call when we get closer to it. I'm about leaning 80% that I'll end up going, but again, it's just rough for me having a late night during the week on a work week. It throws my schedule off. But those are Jon Justice problems that you don't need to worry about. I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on any of this? What did you think of Martin Gore and Kino? What did you think of Dave Gahan and Chrissy Hind and Dolphins? Did you enjoy them? And do you think I'm full of it? Do you think we're going to get those 4 unreleased songs? What's your expectation? And I'd be curious what your thoughts are in terms of the marketing. Like, what do you think the best move is for the band on these tracks? Again, arguably, but, not that arguably, In the End is a strong track. And I get the feeling those other 3 tracks are going to be of high quality as well. So I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are. They're sitting on essentially an EP. This is a Memento Mori unreleased track EP that the band is sitting on. So how do you think they'll end up releasing them? I know some people have mentioned that their expectation was they would end up on the vinyl box sets, and then those obviously get the streaming. They go the streaming route as well, which makes sense to me. It would seem to be kind of a waste, though. So drop me an email, talkshownerd@gmail.com. Or if you're enjoying this up on YouTube, go and leave a comment there. Listen, that's it for this week. Thanks so much for checking out this episode. I appreciate it. I hope wherever you are, you're happy, you're healthy, and you're safe. God bless, and I'll talk to you guys next week, and hopefully I'll be sharing my thoughts on Depeche Mode M, and I hope to hear your thoughts as well between now and then.
Hello, this is Martin Gore from Depeche Mode.
Hi, this is Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode, and you are listening to
My Nerd World.
On Depeche Mode, the podcast. I hit the post on my own song. That's what you call in radio. You hit the post right there. I was proud of myself. Talk to you guys later. Bye. Hey, I did it again.